survey is based on, they have a schema. Everybody has a schema for deciding what's rural, what's urban, and what's suburban. And they have used a legitimate schema. It's great. And they surveyed people about a number of things, including behaviors, but also including attitudes. And I found this stuff pretty interesting. This is all taking place within this larger narrative that we all know about, which talks about division. And I don't really like that word. I'm okay with different, but there's too much at stake. Wow, there's a lot at stake. All right. Okay. So what you did is ask people in households that are in rural communities, suburban communities, and urban communities. Can you see these? Okay. They asked them various questions, and you could strongly agree, moderately disagree, or strongly disagree. Okay, the percents we're seeing are percents of agreement. So they asked a number of factors around where people want to live, what's important to you about what community you live in. And pretty clearly, rural, suburban, and urban households agree that living in a place that's a good place to raise children. The majority of these people said in each of those geographic locales, that's important. What I really liked was the second two rows where we see that we share the fact that it's not important that we worship the same God, or that we worship any God, or that we worship in the same way. We share this notion. Very few of us, 10% or roughly 10% or fewer, 13 in rural, but still that's very small, said that it's important that I live in a community where people share my religious views. I thought that was pretty noteworthy because, of course, that's not fitting with the narrative that we are listening to these days. And then the second one, the third one, the bottom, is where it's important to me to live where people share my political views. And once again, this is not something that people share agreement on. 6% of rural households responded that it was important, 8% of suburban, and 10% of urban. So we do know that this is a similarity, and it's an important similarity. All right, so here we have, what are some of the major problems your community is facing? Again, there is a similarity or two, but here's where we see some differences. Both are all rural, suburban, and urban communities had about the same, very close to the same level of concern. The highest level of agreement within any of these communities was drug addiction as a concern. So 46% of rural households, 35% of suburban households, and 50% of urban households said that this is a major problem facing my community. Then there's roughly almost a third of respondents who said that roads and bridges were a major problem for their community. But then it's the last two rows we see where the problems differ. Rural people, 1 in 4, are saying that access to high-speed internet is a problem for my community. Less than 10% for suburban and 13% for urban. It's not concerns that are shared to the same degree. The last row shows that access to doctors and hospitals is a concern, much more likely among rural households than it is for suburban or urban. So this is where some of our differences come in. out our differences and our similarities? Well, we think we know each other. This slide is showing the percentage of people that think they strongly agree. I understand the problems of community F. So the top is the I, the column here is the they. So this table is showing us that 59% of suburban folks strongly agreed with the statement that they understood the problems of rural folks. 59% of urban folks said strongly agreed that they understand the problems of rural folks. So rural folks strongly agreed that 64% understood suburban folks, and rural folks, 57% said that they strongly agreed that they understood the challenges of urban folks. Suburban folks, 70% understand the problems of urban, and urban folks, 67% strongly agreed that they understood the problems of suburban folks. But we don't think they know us. We think we know them, but we don't think they know us. So the stimulus here was most people living in other types of communities, one, have a negative perception of those who live in my community. 56% of rural people agreed and strongly agreed that this was true. So they're saying that people who live outside my rural community or outside rural communities in general, they have a negative perception of people in my community. So 36% of suburban people had that view about rural and urban households or communities, and 63% of urban households strongly agreed that the people in rural and suburban communities had a negative perception of the urban living community. Then the lower row says 70% of rural people say people in other communities don't understand the problems we face. So, and then there's 52% of suburban households who feel that way, and 65% of urban households who feel that way. So we think we know, and we think that other people don't know, people in other communities. So maybe this is where the division comes in, but we have similarities, we have differences, and what I really want to talk about today is interdependency, because we are similar, we are different, and rural, suburban, and urban is just one way of describing ways in which we're similar, different, and interdependent. We could use lots of other things, gender, race, I'm sure you can name many others, that we are similar, different, and interdependent. So staying within rural-urban interdependency, we clearly are different, or we clearly are interdependent when we think of natural resources and this glass of water that was held up. Clean water matters to everyone, and it is an issue that is impacted all along rural, suburban, and urban lines. We share government, and we're interdependent on government decisions. We share tourism. We share the migration of people. We share culture and art across our state. And we certainly contribute and benefit from the state's GDP. So, when I last worked with James, I had the good fortune of being involved in a project that was initiated by Minnesota Rural Partners. Go down, go up. And it was funded by the USDA. And it was a really exciting project. The Obama administration was very interested in pursuing this angle of how can we think more productively about interdependency. And so the research question that was posed essentially to me was, what would happen to urban Minnesota if rural just disappeared? So urban here, we conceptualize, we actually use the 7-county metro. And I know that everything we've learned earlier today, that there are urban areas throughout the state. But for what we were doing as a pilot study, just to see if this would work, we did the simple thing. So we wanted to estimate rural-urban economic dependency. So we used 2 approaches. One is cluster analysis. We looked at clusters, and this is a well-established approach looking at industry clusters. There are areas, geographic areas of industry concentration. So what we see here is Minnesota's Northwest recreational vehicle manufacturing cluster. And this is Roseau and East River Falls. This is an area where there is a lot of contribution to the state's GDP. So this helped us look at, cluster analysis helped us see that 40-some% of the trade in highly valued clusters, industry sections, was all located in rural Minnesota. So that brought us a certain extent. But what this next analysis allowed us to do is, and I just want to give a shout out to people at the University of Minnesota's Applied Economics program, the University Extension program, the Humphrey School, all of which were very helpful in getting this project done and published. Input-output analysis allows us to look at trading relationships. So we can look at the supply chain, and we can also look at downstream where customers are. This was looking at the suppliers to the recreational vehicle manufacturing cluster. We see Minneapolis-St. Paul and the Metro as a supplier to this industry. We see Duluth as a supplier, and that's Fargo-Moorhead. And then what it's saying is that in those locales are companies that provide critical inputs to the making of the recreational vehicle. So, input-output analysis, I know you guys go, what is this? If you just think about a body of water, like a puddle, or maybe a pond, and think about a substantial pebble or stone getting dropped into it. What input-output analysis allowed us to do was to look at the ripple effect and to separate them into whether it was an effect that happened in a rural marketplace or a rural community versus an urban community. And it also allowed us to separate what added business-to-business or supply chain impact was versus business-to-consumer spending. Now, one of the stereotypes we were dealing with at the time of the study was, well, rural people need the Twin Cities because that's where they go to spend consumer dollars. And that's really not true. Everyone in this room knows there's plenty of ways to spend money without even leaving home today. And there's also plenty of ways to enjoy a relationship with your local business person. The contribution, the interdependency that really is most significant. Now, I was a business-to-business PhD student, so I'm kind of biased, I guess. But in business spending with other businesses, because that's where really livable jobs, living wage jobs are located there. Some of the business consumer spending involves living wage jobs. But a lot of it is, as you know, retail, and those jobs are not going to help support a family. They're just one of them. So, what input-output analysis had us do was we dropped the pebble. This pebble is $1 billion of extra output. So, rural manufacturing grows by $1 billion. And then we trace what are the impacts for rural and urban Minnesota. So, what we saw in the time that we did this study was there's about $32 billion of manufacturing sector trade, and that 53% of it was taking place in the urban region, and rural was 47%. So we wanted to look at, if we put $1 billion stone in from the rural end, what happens? So let's take a look at that. What we see is that there are 538 million extra dollars in the state economy, and there's over 3,500 new jobs. Now, we can see that they split into business-to-business dollars and jobs and business-to-consumer dollars and jobs. And what we see is that the number of jobs are they're close. 1,900 jobs roughly in the business-to-business sector and 1,750 in the business-to-consumer sector. But the dollars are quite different. We see 336 million extra dollars, extra revenue in the business-to-business sector, and $202 million dollars extra revenue in the business-to-consumer. So this again underscores the way in which business-to-business spending is a very important part of the economy. And then we look for each of these sectors, what shows up in urban, what shows up in rural. So the business-to-business sector, 44% showed up in the urban region, and that translated into 32. They got 32% of this 2,000 extra jobs. Rural region benefited 56% of the dollars and 68% of the jobs. If we look at the consumer spending over here, this again underscores that rural consumers don't necessarily work. Only 30% of those dollars showed up in the urban area, and it was 24% of those jobs. The bigger impact for the consumers, of course, is closer to home, with spending the money and creating jobs local outlets. So, what I want to let you know is that in this case, the reverse is also true. $1 billion decrease in rural manufacturing and output means that the Twin Cities area will lose over 1,000 jobs and $208 million in revenue. And these changes, the stone, the $1 billion stone is something that could come about from trade policy, or it could come about from workforce readiness, so that there are, as we all know, incredible amounts of jobs waiting to fill them in greater Minnesota. If we generate more skilled workers suitable for those jobs, that can account for $1 billion stone. $1 billion boost. And then the decrease can come about from changes in trade policy and changes in availability of workforce. Policies will also make a big impact. So let's go to the next one. The implications of this study were that the economic interdependencies or the dependency of rural of urban on rural is real, measurable, and significant. That wealth creation takes place through trading networks that bind these two markets together. The state's GDP is very dependent on those connections. And we used these results to start looking at policy and investments that accurately value how prosperity in the city depends on robust rural areas and vice versa. So Jane and I were contacted by the research director in Washington, D.C. of the National League of Cities last January. And she said, the National League wants to put out this report on rural-urban connections, economic connections, and we're really scouring the web for resources to help us tell that story. And what we're coming up with is everything referencing, not everything, but we're getting pointed back to your study, and we're wondering if we can talk to you about it. We, of course, said yes. And we also refer them to some other states where rural-urban interdependencies are being studied and are highly valued, places like Oregon and parts of California. So the National League used our work as one of their case studies, and in their conclusion, they say that bridging the economic divide between urban and rural areas is going to require states, regions, and localities to understand and bolster this relationship between urban and rural in ways that are economically meaningful and strategic. And as we said in the beginning of the presentation, I understand that economic ties are not the be-all and end-all, but living wage jobs are important across the state. And I know that the interdependencies do also exist within natural resources and culture and art as well, but the ability for our state to prosper is going to depend on investments that bolster rural economic security as well as urban. And I do want to say that I am aware that that the fact of income security skew highly in favor of the metro. That when you look at median income, and median income is where 50% of the households are at this level or less, and 50% are at that level or above, that the top 3 counties for median income are in the metro, and their median income is over $85,000. One of them is over 90. As a median, that's a halfway point of the distribution of income for households in that county. There are 24 counties. This is 2016 data from the Census Bureau. There's 24 counties in greater Minnesota where the median income is below $50,000. So the contrast is real. There's another 47 counties in which the median income is between $50,000 and $60,000. Again, the contrast in security, economic security is real. So, let me take a look. What I wanted to do is show you the cover page of both of these 2 reports, and the URL for downloading them is below. If you're interested, this slide will be posted, and you can use it to follow up or take a photo. But this is on the left, the pilot study that Minnesota Rural Partners did, and on the right, the National League of Cities work on bridging urban rural. Ours says rural urban, but because we were with Minnesota Rural Partners. So I'm wondering if Anybody has a question? Yes. Sure. Yeah, they are. Oh, Stefan? No. The first stage was just illustrative of identifying clusters across the state. So the $1 billion stone did not drop only in the Northwest. It dropped outside of the 7-county metro. Is that your question? Well, not really. I'm sorry. No, and we are hoping to look into the trading relationships with contiguous states when we gather enough resources to repeat this study. That is something that we're very interested in. We're really interested in being more granular with regions because it just makes sense that regions trade with other regions as well as the urban area. So we really want to get a better read on the trading relationships within the state and across the border. We might include Illinois just because we have Chicago. And we trade. It's not captured here.
So I'm trying to get a handle on what the difference is between the billion and the 500.
Additional revenue.
Say you have $1 billion increase in revenue, I guess, outward, and you have a $538 million impact. I'm just thinking there's 400 million.
Right.
I was trying to think of that.
Right. This is on top of the billion. This is additional.
Okay, so those are secondary effects.
Right.
Have you identified policies that have either positively or negatively affected these numbers? And I know that's a loaded question.
Well, one easy answer is policies that expand access to high-speed internet are policies that support trading relationships. If you don't have high-speed internet access, your ability to identify customers or suppliers is constrained, or your ability to trade with them is limited, as well as the whole workforce readiness, access to healthcare. Those all internet, like telephone, is something that is needed. High-speed access to high-speed is possible.
You had at one point statement and vice versa.
Yeah.
And what I'm wondering is if you have $1 billion increase in urban manufacturing, how does that vote for in the rural areas?
Right. And that's a great question, and we did model that. In the next one.
Yeah, if I can just give a little more context to this study. We did this when Minnesota Partners, as Kate said, was working with the United States Department of Agricultural Development, and they were looking for a couple of regional competitiveness clusters around the country to study, and we were able to get one of those. We didn't have enough money to go into any more detail than kind of what you've seen here after a lot of data crunching, as Kate said, with the applied econ folks and folks at Extension. We are really grateful that the National League of Cities has picked up on this, and because it has such an impact, really, and we need more time and money to do the additional study, and so we're seeking funds to do that, because we think that we want to have people understand those relationships, and particularly the relationships that are impacted by policy, and that's what we are. That's what we are here to talk about tomorrow. But this was just a very pilot study. It helped people understand a little bit more about the relationships that are out there. And
we also did model the agricultural sector as well. And while there were impacts in the urban areas, they were not as strong. So a lot of the impacts have to do with white collar support services, attorneys, those things.
I expect that one of the conflicts that we face is rural people saying, when the legislature puts this money into the Twin Cities, that doesn't do anything for us. And yet, when you put some money in the rural area, that does a lot for the Twin Cities. And as a consequence, it's more state policy to pour money into the central cities, let them fend for themselves, put the money where it does everybody the most good. And there's, I think, bitterness and resentment towards the Twin Cities that flows from this perspective.
Right, and your point is really well taken. I've seen that in work I did in homelessness. And we had to generate maps of where people that were experiencing homelessness in St. Paul, where they called home, in order to show legislators from Greater Minnesota that people were coming from their district to receive services. So I do understand your point, and adding that to a more full-blown study is an important feature.
okay, we are, I think, right around noon time, unless there's one more component question. Is somebody raise their hand? Just the same as me. Okay.
My question is pretty much a follow-up to Congressman McGee's. One of the frustrations, we talk about bridging the gap but I find it very frustrating when I'm out in Minnesota and someone very intelligent farmers and boys sitting around and say, well, all you folks do in the metropolitan area is suck all the money out of the rich black dirt of rural Minnesota, and you don't give anything back. And of course, then I have faster figures, we put money from the urban area out to the rural area, your roads, you get your crops. I am frustrated that I can't break through that. I can't break through policy. And I'm going to talk about one other frustrating thing about this. That response, that mentality is driving me to be more narrow. It's driving me to start profiling people in Greater Minnesota as ignorant and being actually almost bragging about their ignorance or arrogant about it. And it's just frustrating to me. So we talk about bridging the gap.
Right.
Like, because it's harming both of us.
Right. Right. And I hear both of you saying that we really need to investigate, get estimates for both bi-directional, both directions. So I hope we are able to do that and bring you the results.
Yes, and thanks for raising the question and hopefully bringing the differences, as you pointed out. Before we go to lunch, which is she intimidated me a long time ago when we worked together, not in a good way, in a good way. I was among those who were looking up to help start the Minnesota Office of Technology. And that's when I first met Kate back in the 90s when we were trying to figure out what is e-commerce and how can we use this to improve our lot. And Kate came on as a consultant to help us try to figure some of that out, and we've been friends ever since and intersecting in many ways. And she's just come off with 8 years at the Catholic Charities as the senior policy research analyst. So if you want to ask her about homelessness and housing, she's your gal. So thank you, Kate. Great to meet you. So lunch is over there, but before we go, I want to let you know that a couple folks in the process about having a table where you can talk about a certain thing. And so I'm just going to point out Ann Tracy here, Ann was Ann is someone who's been working on the Minnesota Women's March. She would be very welcoming to host a table of people, maybe right here, Ann. If you want to sit down and learn more about what's going on with that. Anybody else have a burning desire to host a lunch table? Because we don't have a formal program at lunch, and want to just give you a chance to talk with each other. Anybody have a issue that's popped up? Yes, hand in the back. Yes, and actually, where are you?